They laughed at the biplane, not behind closed doors, not in whispered jokes, out loud. The Japanese squadron leader, Lieutenant Commander Genda Minoru, looked at the thing sitting on the tarmac and actually spit on the ground. "What is that?" he said, loud enough for the entire airfield to hear. "Did someone steal that from a circus?" The other pilots erupted. They doubled over. They slapped their knees, because the plane did look like a joke. It was a Gloucester Gladiator, a British leftover. A biplane, 2 wings stacked on top of each other like something out of the Great War. The canvas was patched in 3 places. The engine coughed black smoke every time it started. The paint was peeling so bad you could see the primer underneath. And standing next to it, looking like he wanted to disappear into the concrete, was a 21-year-old kid named Arthur Chin. Arthur Shui Tin Chin, Chinese-American, born in Portland, Oregon, flew to China in 1932 because he wanted to fight for his ancestral homeland. 5 years later, he was standing on a runway in Nanking, holding a flight helmet that smelled like mildew, watching the best pilots in Asia mock his plane like it was a carnival attraction. But here's the thing. 6 weeks later, that junk biplane would do something impossible. It would shoot down Japan's most feared ace pilot in a dogfight so brutal, so physics-defying, that the Imperial Navy would refuse to believe the report. They would call it propaganda. They would call it luck. They would call it anything except what it actually was. Pure, calculated, skill. This is the story of how a kid in a museum piece humiliated an empire. But before we get to the sky, tell me where you're watching from, because this story starts in a place most people forgot existed, a city that was about to burn. The tarmac, Nanking Airfield. August 1937. Arthur Chin stood at attention. His back was straight, his chin was up, his hands were locked behind his back, but inside, his stomach was twisting like a wrung-out towel because he could hear them. The Chinese pilots, his own squadron, were standing 20 feet away, leaning against the hangar wall, smoking cigarettes and laughing at him. Not with him. "Hey, Chin," one of them shouted. His name was Liu Wei, a hotshot from Beijing who flew a brand-new Soviet I-15. "Did you glue that thing together yourself, or did your grandmother sew it?" The group exploded in laughter. Another pilot, Chen Huaimin, cocky as hell, already 5 kills to his name, walked over and kicked the tire of the Gladiator. The rubber was so worn, it barely had tread left. "This is what they give you?" Chen said, shaking his head in mock sympathy. "Man, you must have really pissed off the colonel." Arthur said nothing. He just stood there, took it, because what was he supposed to say? Actually, this plane is secretly amazing. He didn't even believe that himself. The Gladiator was a relic, manufactured in 1934, designed for a war that never came. By 1937, aviation had moved on. The Japanese were flying Mitsubishi A5Ms, sleek, fast, deadly. Monoplanes with enclosed cockpits and retractable landing gear. Arthur's plane had 2 wings and an open cockpit. It looked like it belonged in a museum. And the worst part? Arthur knew they were right. He had seen the Japanese planes. He had seen them destroy his fellow pilots. The A5Ms were 60 miles per hour faster than the Gladiator. They could climb higher, dive steeper. They had better guns, better radios, better everything. The only reason Arthur was even assigned this plane was because the good ones were gone. Shot down, burned, crashed into rice paddies. The Chinese Air Force was bleeding out, and command was scraping the bottom of the barrel. So they gave Arthur Chin, the quiet kid from Oregon who didn't drink, didn't gamble, didn't brag, the plane nobody else wanted. The junk plane. Liu Wei walked closer, his cigarette dangling from his lips. "Tell you what, Da Chin," he said, grinning like a shark. "I'll bet you 50 yuan you don't even make it off the runway without that thing falling apart." The other pilots howled. "Make it 100!" someone yelled. Chen slapped the fuselage of the Gladiator. The metal rattled. "Listen to that!" Chen shouted. "It sounds like a bicycle!" More laughter. Arthur's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. He just turned, climbed into the cockpit, and started running through his pre-flight checks. Inside the cockpit, the seat was torn. The stick was sticky with old grease. The altimeter was cracked. Arthur's hands moved across the controls anyway. Fuel gauge, half full. That was generous. Oil pressure, low, but stable. Ammo counter, 600 rounds. If the guns didn't jam, he pulled the goggles over his eyes. And for just a second, he let himself feel the weight of it. The mockery, the fear, the crushing certainty that he was about to die in a plane held together by spit and prayer. But then, he heard it. Footsteps. Someone was walking toward the plane. Arthur looked up and froze, because standing next to the wing, hands in his pockets, was someone who wasn't laughing. An American, a flying tiger. Arthur recognized him immediately. Captain James Tex Hill, one of the volunteer pilots from Claire Chennault's American Volunteer Group. The guy was a legend. 12 confirmed kills. Flew a P-40 Warhawk like it was an extension of his body. Tex looked at the Gladiator. Then he looked at Arthur, and he gave him a sharp, respectful salute. No words, just that. Then Tex turned and walked away. But as he passed Liu Wei and the others, he said something. Quiet, but loud enough for Arthur to hear. "That kid's got guts." The laughter stopped. Liu Wei's grin faded. Chen looked away, suddenly very interested in his cigarette. Because if an American ace respected the junk plane pilot, maybe they had missed something. Arthur's hands stopped shaking. He strapped in. And for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Nanking City. 3 days earlier, Arthur hadn't always been afraid. When he first arrived in China in 1932, he was excited. He was 16 years old, fresh out of flight school in Oregon, and ready to be a hero. He imagined dogfights, parades, glory. What he got was a nightmare. Because by 1937, the Empire of Japan wasn't just invading China. They were erasing it. Arthur had seen it with his own eyes. The burned villages, the refugees, the bodies. The Imperial Army didn't just take territory, they punished it. They wanted the Chinese people to know that resistance was futile, that fighting back would only make things worse, and they were winning. The Chinese Air Force was outnumbered 10-1, maybe worse. For every plane China had, Japan had a squadron. For every trained pilot, Japan had an academy pumping out replacements. Arthur had lost friends. His bunkmate, a kid named Zhang Liang, had been shot down over Shanghai 2 weeks ago. His plane went into a spin and never pulled out. They found the wreckage in a canal. Zhang was still strapped in, his hands frozen on the stick. Arthur attended the funeral. There were 12 others that same day. And the worst part? The Japanese didn't even care. To them, it wasn't a war. It was target practice. The briefing room. The mission. Colonel Cao stood at the front of the room, pointing at a map. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice flat and exhausted, "Intel reports a Japanese bomber formation heading toward Nanking, 12 aircraft, escorted by 6 A-5M fighters." The room went silent. 18 enemy planes. The Chinese squadron had 8 operational fighters. "Our job," Cao continued, "is to intercept, drive them off, protect the city." Liu Wei raised his hand. "Colonel, with respect, that's suicide." Cao didn't blink. "I know." He looked around the room. His eyes landed on Arthur. "Chin," he said, "you're flying escort. Stay high. Stay out of the way. If you see an opening, take it. If you don't, run." Arthur nodded, but inside his heart was pounding, because he knew what stay out of the way meant. It meant, you're flying a garbage plane. Don't get in the way of the real pilots. Cao dismissed them. The pilots filed out. Arthur stayed behind. "Sir," he said quietly, "I can fight." Cao looked at him, tired, sad. "I know you can, son," Cao said, "but that plane can't." The night before the mission, Arthur couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the airfield outside. Engines coughing to life, mechanics shouting. Somewhere, a pilot was singing a drinking song. Arthur closed his eyes, and he thought about home. Portland, his mom's kitchen, the smell of her dumplings, the sound of rain on the roof. He thought about his dad, who had told him, "If you go to China, you might not come back." Arthur had laughed it off. "I'll be fine, Dad. I'm a good pilot." But now he wasn't so sure. Because tomorrow he was going to fly into a fight he couldn't win, in a plane that couldn't protect him, against an enemy that didn't care if he lived or died. And for what? To be a decoy? To be bait? Arthur sat up. He pulled on his boots, and he walked out onto the tarmac. The tarmac. Midnight. The Gladiator sat alone under the stars. Arthur walked up to it slowly. He ran his hand along the lower wing. The canvas was rough, patched, faded. He looked at the engine cowling, dented. He looked at the tail, crooked. This plane had been through hell, and somehow it was still here. Arthur climbed up onto the wing. He sat in the cockpit, and he whispered to it, "You and me, huh?" Plane didn't answer, but Arthur felt something shift inside him because he realized something. The other pilots, they had speed. They had armor. They had new planes. But Arthur had something they didn't. He had nothing to lose. And that made him dangerous. He touched the rotting wood of the wing strut, and he made a promise. "One flight," he whispered. "That's all I need." He climbed down, walked back to the barracks, and when he lay down in his bunk, he slept like a stone, because tomorrow, Arthur Chin was going to stop being afraid. Tomorrow, Arthur Chin was going to fight. Arthur stood in the briefing room with the other pilots. Colonel Cow was speaking, but Arthur wasn't listening to the words anymore. He was listening to the tone. Exhaustion, resignation, defeat. "Expect heavy resistance," Cow was saying. "The bomber formation will be at 12,000 feet. The escorts will be circling at 15,000. Our objective is to break up the formation before they reach the city center." Liu Wei leaned over to Chen, whispered something. They both smirked. Cow saw it. "Something funny, Lieutenant Liu?" Liu straightened up. "No, sir. Just wondering if Chin's biplane can even reach 12,000 feet. A few pilots chuckled. Cow's face hardened. "Chin's plane has a service ceiling of 33,000 feet. That's 8,000 feet higher than your I-15, so maybe you should worry about your own altitude." The room went silent. Liu's face flushed red. Cow turned back to the map. "Wheels up in 20 minutes. Dismissed." The pilots filed out. Arthur stayed behind again. "Colonel," he said quietly, "I need to know something." Cow looked at him. "The A5M," Arthur continued. "What's its turn radius?" Cow frowned. "Why?" "Because if I can't outrun it, I need to outturn it." Cow studied him for a long moment. Then he walked to a filing cabinet, pulled out a document, and laid it on the table. It was an intelligence report, captured from a downed Japanese pilot. Cow pointed to a line of text. "The A5M has a stall speed of 72 miles per hour, Cow said. Yours is 58. That means in a tight turn, the A5M has to maintain a wider radius or it stalls and drops." Arthur's eyes narrowed. "So if I can force him into a turning fight—" "He has more speed," Cow interrupted. "But you have more wing loading. You can pull tighter circles." Arthur looked up. "How much tighter?" Cow's expression didn't change. "Enough to make him dizzy. But Chin, the moment you commit to that turn, you lose all your energy. If you miss, you're a sitting duck." Arthur nodded slowly. "Understood, sir." Cow put a hand on his shoulder. "Arthur," he said quietly, "you don't have to prove anything. Stay high, stay safe, come home." Arthur met his eyes. "With respect, sir, I didn't come to China to stay safe." Cow held his gaze. Then he nodded. "Good hunting." Arthur walked toward the Gladiator. The mechanics were doing final checks. One of them, a grizzled old man named Wu, looked up as Arthur approached. "She's ready," Wu said. "Barely." Arthur climbed up onto the wing. Wu grabbed his arm. "Kid," Wu said, his voice low, "I've been working on planes for 20 years, and I'm telling you, this thing shouldn't fly. The engine's held together with baling wire. The fuel line leaks. The guns jam if you fire more than a 3-second burst." Arthur looked at him. Wu's eyes were serious. "So don't get fancy," Wu continued. "One pass, one kill. Then Run. You understand me? Arthur nodded. I understand. Wu let go of his arm. Good. Because I like you, kid, and I don't want to scrape you. Off a mountainside. Arthur strapped in, pulled the goggles down, primed the engine. The Gladiator coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. The prop spun. Black smoke belched from the exhaust, but it was running. Arthur gave Wu a thumbs up. Wu didn't smile. He just crossed himself. 8 planes lined up on the runway. 7 Soviet I-15s, 1 British Gladiator. Liu Wei's plane was first. He revved his engine, released the brakes, and shot down the runway like a bullet. His wheels lifted. He banked hard left, climbing fast. One by one, the others followed. Arthur was last. He pushed the throttle forward. The Gladiator shuddered, rolled forward, picked up speed. 30 miles per hour. The tail lifted. The wheels left the ground. Arthur pulled back gently on the stick, and the Gladiator floated. That was the only word for it. It didn't punch into the sky like the I-15s. It drifted upward like a leaf on the wind. Arthur could feel every gust, every shift in the air. The plane was alive under his hands. Fragile, but alive. He banked left, following the squadron. Below him, Nanking spread out like a map. The Yangtze River glittered in the morning sun. Smoke rose from cook fires. People were walking to work, carrying baskets, pulling carts. They had no idea what was coming. Arthur climbed. 8,000 feet, 10,000, 12,000. The squadron formed up in a loose V formation. Liu Wei's voice crackled over the radio. All units, this is Dragon Lead. Enemy formation spotted. Bearing 280, 12 bombers, 6 escorts. Stay tight. Attack on my mark. Arthur scanned the horizon, and then he saw them. Tiny dots in the distance, getting bigger. Arthur was climbing to get above the formation when he felt it. A vibration. Faint at first, then stronger. The engine was shaking. Not normal turbulence. Something was wrong. He glanced at the oil pressure gauge. The needle was dropping. Fast. No. 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 Arthur tapped the gauge. The needle didn't move. The engine coughed. Black smoke poured from the cowling. Arthur's heart slammed into his throat. The fuel line. Wu had warned him. The engine was starving. He had 2 choices. Turn back, land, live, keep going, hope the engine held, maybe die. Arthur looked down. Below him, Nanking stretched out like a fragile, beautiful dream. He thought about Zhang Liang, about the funeral, about the 12 coffins. He thought about the refugees, the burned villages, the children running from bombers, and he made his choice. He leaned forward, opened the fuel mixture valve manually, and flooded the engine. The Gladiator lurched. The engine roared back to life. But Arthur knew. He had maybe 10 minutes before the whole thing seized up. 10 minutes to fight. 10 minutes to matter. He pushed the throttle to full and dove toward the enemy. Liu Wei's voice crackled again. Dragon Squadron, break and attack! Go, go, go! The I-15s peeled off, diving toward the bombers. Arthur followed, but slower. Always slower. The Kisa... Japanese escorts saw them coming. 6 A-5M fighters banked hard, racing to intercept. Arthur watched them move, sleek, fast, beautiful. And he felt it again. The fear. But this time, it felt different. Because Arthur wasn't thinking about survival anymore. He was thinking about physics. The A-5M had speed. But here's what the Japanese pilots didn't know. The Gladiator could turn on a dime. And Arthur Chin had spent 5 years learning exactly how tight that dime was. The first A-5M screamed past Arthur's left wing, missed him by 20 feet. The pilot was toying with him. Arthur could almost hear the mockery. Look at this clown in his museum piece. The A-5M banked, coming around for another pass. Arthur didn't run. He turned into the attack, hard left, full stick. The Gladiator's wings groaned. The G-forces slammed Arthur into his seat. His vision tunneled, but the plane held. And suddenly, Arthur was inside the A-5M's turn radius. The Japanese pilot panicked, tried to tighten his turn, but at 273, the A-5M couldn't pull that tight without stalling. The enemy plane wobbled, dropped. Arthur didn't chase. He leveled out, scanning for the next threat. And that's when he saw him. There was one A-5M that wasn't chasing the I-15s. It was circling, high, watching, waiting. Arthur's blood ran cold because he recognized the markings. Red stripes on the tail, a white lightning bolt on the fuselage. That was Lieutenant Commander Genda Minoru, the best pilot in the Imperial Navy. 17 confirmed kills, 0 losses. The man was a ghost, and he was staring right at Arthur. For a moment, neither of them moved. They just looked at each other. 2 pilots, 2 planes, 2 entirely different philosophies of war. Genda's plane was a scalpel, precision, speed, lethality. Arthur's plane was a relic, desperation, guts, hope. And then Genda smiled. Arthur could see it through the cockpit glass, a cold, predatory smile, the smile of a hunter who had just found prey worth killing. Genda banked, dove, and came straight for Arthur. Arthur didn't think. He reacted. He pulled back hard on the stick, climbing vertical. The Gladiator strained. The engine screamed, but it climbed. Genda followed. But the A-5M was heavier, faster, less maneuverable in a climb. Arthur hit the top of his loop, rolled inverted, and dove. Genda followed. They were spiraling now, circling each other like sharks. Arthur's engine was smoking. The oil pressure was critical. He had maybe 5 minutes left, maybe less. Genda opened fire. Tracers streaked past Arthur's canopy. Crack, 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 crack. Arthur jinked left, then right. The bullets missed, but barely. Genda was good, better than good. Arthur had never fought anyone like this. Every move Arthur made, Genda countered. Every feint, every dive, every turn. Genda was already there, waiting. It was like fighting his own shadow, and Arthur was running out of time. Arthur's mind was racing. He couldn't outrun Genda. He couldn't outgun him. He couldn't outlast him. But Arthur looked at his wings, 2 of them, stacked, old-fashioned, inefficient. And suddenly, he understood. The A-5M had speed. It had sleek, modern aerodynamics. But it had small wings, low drag, high speed, poor lift at low velocity. The Gladiator had huge wings, high drag, low speed, incredible lift. Arthur whispered to himself, "He has speed, but I have wing loading. I can turn inside his shadow." And that's when Arthur stopped running. He throttled back, hard. The Gladiator slowed. Genda, behind him, was closing fast, too fast. Arthur could see the muzzle flashes from Genda's guns. The bullets were getting closer, closer. Arthur waited, wait for it. And then Arthur pulled the stick into his lap, full deflection. The Gladiator snapped into a turn so tight it defied physics. The wings screamed. The frame groaned. Arthur's vision went gray, but the plane held. And Genda couldn't follow. The A-5M tried to match the turn, but at 200 miles too fast, the plane skidded wide, wings shaking, teetering on the edge of a stall. And for one perfect crystalline second, Arthur was behind him. Arthur's hands were steady. His breathing was calm. The world shrank to a single point. The A-5M's engine cowling, center mass, 300 yards. Arthur's thumb hovered over the trigger. He could see Genda in the cockpit, twisting around, realizing what had happened. The predator had become the prey. Arthur squeezed. The 4 machine guns roared. The Gladiator shuddered. Tracers streaked across the sky and connected. Thunk, 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 thunk. The rounds punched through the A5M's thin aluminum skin. Sparks flew. Smoke poured from the engine. Genda's plane shuddered, rolled, and started to fall. Arthur pulled up, banking away. His engine was dying. The oil pressure gauge read 0. The temperature was redlining. But he had done it. He had hit the ace. He didn't know if it was a kill. He didn't know if Genda would recover. All he knew was the impossible had just happened. And now he had to survive. Arthur looked back. The A5M was spinning, trailing black smoke, falling. But then the canopy popped. A figure ejected. A parachute blossomed. Genda was alive, but his plane was gone. Arthur turned back toward Nanking. The engine coughed, sputtered, died. The propeller stopped spinning. The Gladiator went silent. And Arthur realized he was 10 miles from the airfield, at 8,000 feet, with no engine. He had one chance, one glide. If he missed the runway, he was dead. Arthur pushed the nose down, trimmed for best glide, and whispered, "Come on, girl. One more miracle." The Gladiator fell toward the earth, silent, graceful, like a falling leaf. The world was quiet. No engine, no radio. Just the whistle of wind over canvas and the creak of wooden struts. Arthur's hands were locked on the stick. His eyes were locked on the horizon. Below him, Nanking sprawled out like a living map. He could see the airfield, a tiny brown rectangle in a sea of green rice paddies. 5 miles, maybe 6. At this altitude, with this glide ratio, it was going to be close. Arthur did the math in his head. The Gladiator had a glide ratio of roughly 8.11, 8 feet forward for every foot down, 8,000 feet altitude. That gave him maybe 12 miles of glide. Maybe. If he didn't hit turbulence, if the wind didn't shift, if the plane didn't fall apart. Arthur's jaw tightened. He trimmed the nose down another degree, picked up 5 more knots of airspeed. The airfield was getting closer, 4 miles, 3. But he was dropping fast, 6,000 feet, 5,000. The radio, still powered by the battery, crackled to life. Identified aircraft, this is Nanking Tower. You are not cleared for landing. Repeat, you are not cleared. Arthur grabbed the mic. Tower, this is Dragon 8. I have no engine. I am coming in dead stick. Clear the runway. Silence. Then, Dragon 8, confirmed. Runway is yours. Good luck. Arthur dropped the mic. 2,000 feet. The runway was directly ahead, but he was too high. If he came in like this, he'd overshoot and crash into the forest beyond. Arthur made a decision. He kicked the rudder hard left. The Gladiator slipped sideways through the air, bleeding altitude fast. 1,500 feet. 1,000. The plane was shaking. The wings were groaning. But it was working. 500 feet. Arthur centered the rudder, leveled the wings. The runway rushed up to meet him. 200 feet. The wheels kissed the concrete. Thump. The tail dropped. The plane bounced once, twice, then settled. Arthur let it roll. No brakes. The hydraulics were dead. The Gladiator coasted down the runway, slower and slower, until finally it stopped, right in the middle of the tarmac. Arthur sat there, hands still on the stick, heart hammering, alive. He unbuckled, climbed out. His legs were shaking so bad he almost fell off the wing. And that's when he heard it, shouting. Mechanics were running toward him. Pilots were running toward him. Wu reached him first. The old mechanic grabbed Arthur by the shoulders, eyes wide. "You insane son of a... Did you just shoot down an A5M in that thing?" Arthur nodded, couldn't speak. Wu laughed, a wild, disbelieving laugh. "The radio's going crazy," Wu shouted. "Liu Wei saw it. He's telling everyone you got Genda." Arthur's head snapped up. "Genda?" Wu nodded, grinning like a maniac. "The ace, kid. You shot down the ace." The other pilots arrived. Liu Wei, Chen Huaimin, even the ones who had mocked him. They surrounded Arthur, slapping his back, shaking his hand, shouting questions. How did you do it? Did you see him eject? Is it true you glided 10 miles with no engine? Arthur just stood there, overwhelmed, exhausted, numb. Colonel Cow pushed through the crowd. He looked at Arthur, then at the Gladiator. The plane was a wreck. The engine was seized solid. The fuselage was riddled with bullet holes. One of the wings had a crack running down the main spar. Cow shook his head slowly. Arthur, he said quietly, that plane should not have brought you home. Arthur looked at it. The patched canvas, the peeling paint, the crooked tail, and he smiled. She's tougher than she looks, sir. Cow put a hand on his shoulder. So are you. 2 hours later, Arthur was in the radio room. Colonel Cow was filing the after-action report. Dragon 8, Arthur Chin, engaged and damaged one enemy A-5M fighter, pilot identified as Lieutenant Commander Genda Minoru. Confirmed by Dragon Lid and Dragon 3. Enemy pilot ejected and parachuted into Japanese-held territory. The radio operator looked up. Sir, we're getting confirmation from the city. Civilians saw the dogfight. They saw the parachute. They're saying it was Genda. Cow nodded. Send it up the chain. Inform Chongqing. The operator hesitated. Sir, the Japanese are already denying it. Cow frowned. What? The operator handed him a decoded intercept. Cow read it. His face darkened. They're calling it propaganda, Cow said quietly. They're saying Genda was never in the air today. They're saying the Chinese are fabricating victories to boost morale. Arthur, sitting in the corner, felt his stomach twist. But Liu Wei saw it. Chen saw it. The civilians saw it. Cow looked at him, sad, tired. The truth doesn't matter, Arthur. Not to them. Arthur stood up. Then we make them believe it. Cow raised an eyebrow. How? Arthur's eyes hardened. We do it again. Vice Admiral Hasegawa stared at the report on his desk. His face was stone. Across from him, Lieutenant Commander Genda Minoru stood at attention. Genda's uniform was torn. His face was bruised. His pride was shattered. Explain, Hasegawa said coldly. Genda's jaw tightened. The Chinese pilot, he was flying a biplane, a Gladiator. I underestimated him. You underestimated a biplane? Yes, sir. Hasegawa stood, walked to the window. Do you understand what you've done? He said quietly. You have given the Chinese hope. You have made us look weak. It won't happen again, sir. Hasegawa turned. You're right. It won't, because you are grounded until further notice. Genda's face went pale. Sir, dismissed. Genda saluted, turned, left. But as he walked down the hallway, his hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. Because Genda Minoru had never been shot down, never been humiliated, never been beaten. And the man who had done it was flying a junk plane. Genda made a silent vow. He would find Arthur Chin, and he would kill him. Arthur flew 8 more missions. He didn't get another kill, but he didn't die either. And in the Chinese Air Force in 1937, that was a victory. But the war was turning. Nanking was surrounded. The Japanese were closing in from 3 sides. Supplies were running out. Pilots were running out. Planes were running out. Colonel Cow called Arthur into his office. We're evacuating, Cow said bluntly. The city can't hold. Command is pulling the air wing back to Chongqing. Arthur nodded. When do we leave? Tonight. But Arthur, Cow hesitated. Your plane, it's not airworthy. The mechanics say the airframe is done. She won't survive another flight. Arthur felt something break inside him. So, what do I do? Cow handed him a piece of paper. You're being transferred to the Flying Tigers. Claire Chenault requested you personally. Arthur stared at the paper. The Americans? You'll be flying P-40s, Cow said. Real fighters, modern equipment. You've earned it. Arthur should have been happy, but all he could think about was the Gladiator, sitting on the tarmac, alone, broken, forgotten. "Can I say goodbye?" Arthur asked quietly. Cal nodded. "You've got 1 hour." Arthur walked out to the Gladiator one last time. The mechanics had already stripped her. No guns, no radio, no engine, just a skeleton. Arthur climbed up onto the wing, sat in the cockpit, put his hands on the stick, and he cried. Not from fear, not from exhaustion, from gratitude, because this plane, this junk plane, had saved his life, had made him a legend, had taught him that speed didn't matter, that shiny didn't matter, that new didn't matter. What mattered was heart. Arthur wiped his eyes, climbed down, and walked away. Arthur Chin flew with the Flying Tigers for 3 more years. He shot down 8 more enemy planes. He survived battles that killed better pilots. He earned medals, respect, fame, but he never forgot the Gladiator. In 1942, during a mission over Burma, Arthur's P-40 was hit by anti-aircraft fire. The engine caught fire. The controls locked. Arthur tried to bail out, but the canopy was jammed. He fought it, screaming, pulling, kicking, and finally, it opened. Arthur ejected, the parachute deployed, and he drifted down into the jungle. He survived, but his face, the fire had burned him badly. The doctors did what they could, but Arthur Chin, the kid who shot down Japan's top ace, would carry the scars for the rest of his life. He was medically discharged in 1943. He returned to the United States. He lived quietly, worked odd jobs, never talked about the war. And when people asked him, "Is it true you shot down Genda?" Arthur would just smile and say, "I had a good plane." But here's the thing. Arthur Chin's story wasn't unique. There were hundreds of pilots like him, Chinese, American, British, all flying junk planes, all fighting impossible odds, all ignored by the history books. So let me ask you, if you know another story like this, one the textbooks forgot, share it in the comments, because these legends deserve to be remembered. Arthur Chin died in 1997. He was 81 years old. At his funeral, there were no military honors, no 21-gun salute, no flag-draped coffin, just family, friends, and one old mechanic named Wu, who had flown all the way from Taiwan to pay his respects. Wu stood at the grave, and he told a story about a kid and a junk plane and a fight that shouldn't have been won. "They mocked that Gladiator," Wu said quietly. "They said it was garbage. They said it belonged in a museum." He smiled. And you know what? They were right. It did belong in a museum. But not because it was junk, because it was a miracle. Wu placed a small wooden propeller on the grave, a piece of the Gladiator, salvaged before the evacuation. Arthur didn't win because his plane was fast, Wu said. He won because he understood something the enemy didn't. War isn't about who has the best equipment. It's about who refuses to quit. Wu stepped back, saluted, and walked away. The history books forgot the Gladiator. They forgot Arthur Chin. They focused on the P-51s, the Spitfires, the jets. But in a dusty corner of a museum in Taipei, there's a photograph, black and white, faded. It shows a young man standing next to a biplane. The plane is held together with patches and prayer. The man is smiling, and underneath, in faded ink, it says, "Arthur Chin, August 1937, the day we learned that legends don't need to be shiny." Because here's the truth. The Japanese Empire had speed. They had technology. They had the best pilots in the world. But Arthur Chin had something they could never build. He had wing loading. He had heart. And on that one perfect day in August, he had the nerve to turn inside their shadow. The Gladiator never flew again. But Genda Minoru, he flew for 3 more years. He survived the war. He became an admiral. But he never talked about the biplane, never mentioned the kid from Oregon. Because some defeats, Some humiliations are too painful to remember. In 1985, a Japanese historian interviewed Genda. He was 73 years old, dying of cancer. The historian asked, "Is it true? Did a Chinese pilot in a biplane shoot you down?" Genda was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. "Yes." "What was his name?" Genda closed his eyes. "Chin. Arthur Chin." "What do you remember about him?" Genda smiled, sad, respectful. "He flew like the plane was part of his body, like they were the same organism. I have fought many pilots, Americans, British, Russians. But that boy," Genda's voice cracked, "that boy understood something I didn't." "What?" Genda opened his eyes. "That you don't need to be faster. You just need to be smarter." He died 2 weeks later, and his last words, according to his daughter, were, "Tell the American he was a worthy opponent." They mocked the Gladiator. They called it junk. They called it a joke. They called it a museum piece. And they were right. It was a museum piece, but not because it was obsolete, because it was timeless. Because 80 years later, people still tell the story. Of Kao, the kid who refused to quit. Of the plane that refused to die. Of the day David killed Goliath. With wings made of canvas and a heart made of steel. The Gladiator is gone. Arthur is gone. But the lesson remains. Never, ever underestimate the underdog, because the underdog isn't fighting for glory. They're fighting for survival. And that makes them dangerous.